This is Paul Barclay, who is a fine human who was a famous deck builder, high level judge early in Magic the Gathering's life. And then he and I started at the same time at Wizards. He was the Magic rules manager in R&D. He's a game designer who has intimate arcane knowledge, which he can't tap anymore. um, and so we're going to talk a bit about our time on Magic and what we can remember. And so the anecdotes, I think, will be pretty. We couldn't predict where this conversation will go, but it will.
We both planned it, and we have no idea where this is going.
Yeah, like Paul actually was looking for all the Magic sets that we worked on at the same time, which I think is like 25 or 30, and like he had to go to Wikipedia. I think I could do it, but I can't promise that I could do it. But I think I could do it because I'm arrogant and overconfident. So Paul has worked on Magic for like a dozen years, and you you were the head of production for a while. Is that right, or director of production?
Yeah, I did. I started off in R&D with Magic Rules Manager, and then basically was the producer for everything that wasn't Magic or D&D, because Wizards did that crazy spurt where they would just create 5 or 6 new games every year, and all of them would fail, and they just kept doing that. So I managed a lot of failure, which was a good learning experience. And then moved into a bunch of production, and then some program product management through the end of it. Did a lot of work on the digital transformation of Wizards, keeping Magic online, people sane. I think most of my work revolved around trying not to let people get too insane.
Yeah.
Like, good insane's okay, but like sometimes like things would just destroy people. And most of my job was preventing that from happening in as many different ways as possible. So the good thing people could do would actually happen.
You're actually the reason I'm still here. No, I'm just kidding. I just feel like you could, you had that kind of Baymax-like character, which I never.
Yeah, and I need to.
It's really good, actually. I quite loved it, and still do. San Fran, Tokyo, has a great aesthetic. That movie is much better than I thought it would be. I was sad that I liked it so much, Disney.
Add it to the list with the kids then, I think.
Yeah, I actually am going to add it to my list simultaneously. I haven't forced them to watch it. Yeah, we'll talk a bit more about what you've been doing after Wizards too. One thing I was thinking, I try to start each of these calls now, like as I try to figure out what the recipe is, with a question that we answer at the end. And so I think the question I have for us, which I don't know the answer to, which is part of the fun in asking it, is like, if we could go back and change one of the cards that we made during the time we were there, like what would we change and what would we change it to?
So many good answers to that question.
I mean, the good news is, I guess, the first one is obvious to me, actually. I would definitely, but I can't say it. At the end, we have to come back to this, and I just have to like try and remember the obvious 10-letter card in my head that I'm not going to blame the person who made the change late in the, but I am blaming them.
I feel like you and I are going to have a very different set of answers for these.
Yeah, I think for those listening, I led the game development part of Making Magic, which is trying to figure out all different kinds of things, but it's essentially like the lead producer trying to bring it all together so that it plays well, it markets well, it sells well, all the art lines up with the cards, and that's how I would have called it. The game balance also is a major component of it, because if Magic's not balanced well, it ends up causing business trouble. And if it's balanced too well, it ends up causing business trouble, as we learned in our journey. But Paul was just a partner leader in all of this. He was one of the sage guides. I think Paul and Del Lago were the people who made sure that we didn't kill ourselves.
Yeah,
with each set release.
Yeah, in tech terms, like Del and I were the engineering department.
Yeah,
there were two-person engineering department with 30 creatives.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I was sort of the person responsible for taking all these really powerful creatives that were basically kind of I don't want to use the word misfit toys, but like now they're, I would guess that it's just such strong personalities you're trying to like create an ecosystem that they can all
They were
thrive in,
all
right?
unique, different personalities as well, which was
Yeah.
exactly what was needed. It was the right mix of, like, there was no cookie cutter, these 2 people matched skills. Like, that did not happen.
You almost wonder. I was talking with Patrick Chapin about this yesterday. There was this, if you're interviewing a candidate, you're interviewing Paul Barclay, you're interviewing a Mike Elliott or a Brady Domermuth, these really strong personalities that are just brilliant, right? Like, if at the end of the interview there aren't, flame marks on the wall, or, like from like a mental perspective, where you don't feel like you've transported yourself to a new plane of existence that has an entirely different fantastical makeup than anywhere else you've been, you don't get the job, right? That's kind of how it felt to me in retrospect, right?
Yeah. Although I feel like there was very little actual interviewing going on for those people. Like
Yeah.
I didn't get interviewed.
I did. I did get interviewed. Paul Peterson asked me this question in my interview: "What's your favorite movie?" That's how hard it was. And my favorite movie was Singing in the Rain at that time, which, like, I don't lament, I don't regret. That's a great movie. But yeah, it was definitely a different time. I don't know. So much of it comes from like Bill Rose's head, and it would be interesting to talk to him at some point. But
Yeah.
it's you're like Brian Tinsman shows up from like the brand team, and Tyler Beelman comes up from the brand team, and then Devin Lowe shows up unannounced, and no one ever talked to him ahead of time. And so
Yeah.
there's
Bill
this
Bill
weird
had
hand of God with.
Bill had this, like, long-term master plan for how things were, like, he was playing fantasy baseball with a whole bunch of game designers and developers and brand people
Yeah,
and car salesmen and all, like, this whole big machination was just, like, pulling round and coalescing together. Like, I got hired because he called me up and said, "We wanna hire you. Here's an offer." 'Cause, like, they knew me, like, they knew me enough because 'cause I've been working on a bunch of, uh,
yeah,
bunch of things, in the past, and then, their options for rules manager when I was hired were, um, a guy they couldn't hire for, personality reasons,
oh yeah,
a guy that, was building Mars rovers at NASA, who didn't wanna leave, and a guy who, had a security clearance, working on something very, 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 very high energy, and that's all we'll say about him. So I was the only choice. Luckily,
that
it worked out.
that sounds pretty great. And I worked with you on this. I showed up around. I don't know if you were there during Apocalypse. I showed up
No,
before
no.
Apocalypse was done.
No, you were there, like, 6 months before I was, 6, 7 months?
Yeah, we had an internal debate. So plane shift was just pencils down, and I show up, and there's this debate. I think different people in the department had, like, they were debating whether meddling mage Phyrexian Scuda or flame tongue Kavu was the most powerful and like disruptive card in the set. And like immediately it was like flame tongue Kavu ruins everything. Like for me, it was like the obvious most powerful and annoying card. It really distorted the environment for a while. Um, but that was the debate that was going on. And then Apocalypse was just kind of a wonderful design. You show up during Odyssey, which was just weird. It was a weird design set to come into. You're like, there's so much. The graveyard wasn't exciting to a lot of people at that time.
No, no, it was I showed up with, yeah, Odyssey, 7th edition, and Magic Online careening to its, launch with very little attention being paid to it. That was
Yeah, it was a really interesting project, Magic Online, because we never got any data from it early on. And we didn't have like a ton of input on it early on. We would make the sets, and the majority of my time was spent focused on the sets. Occasionally, we would do these weekly roundtables where the whole department would that worked on Magic would get together and talk about the deepest issues. So we would talk about Magic Online there. But production processes were not strong in 2000, 2001. It was still like the beginning of a company in a lot of ways, transitioning from a counterculture company to a more cultural one. That's the way it felt to me when we were there. We were like there for the sea change, where it was like people were doing kind of underhanded things in the production department. It was still wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and as Hasbro purchased the company, it transitioned to a more mature setup.
Yeah.
So you are the mature.
I'm the mature. Oh God.
You were the maturity. Yeah.
Playing.
I mean, that's how I've always thought of you. Yeah. So I'm kind of curious. Like, do you remember anything about Odyssey? Do you remember what's the thing? Like, what are the things you? I do remember a thing, but you go first.
I remember really enjoying the creative discussions on Odyssey, and because it was it was really I feel like it was the first set that was trying to do a new thing. Like everything else was either building on things that had been set up long before, or was copy pasting from real world, whether that most of the original sets were copy pasting from real world fantasy, or just like literally people's D&D campaigns. And then Odyssey was this shift on the creative side of, okay, we're actually building a new world here that's different, and we're stepping away from some of the traditional tropes, and I think that was like the first sort of baby step towards really growing Magic from just like high fantasy, fairly linear story into something bigger. And then, as we always do in R&D, we way went over the line on that in Kamigawa, and then we kind of out.
Yeah, that all of that is deliciously familiar. Yeah, it's funny. Like when I was writing the Alternate Worlds book, which is I just submitted the audiobook last night, and I'm waiting for Amazon to give the thumbs up. So the people who don't like words, of which there are many, like will have a way to access.
I've never listened to an audiobook all the way through.
No. Wow.
Yeah.
I think that's crazy. Hello, Jessica Christine. This is Paul Barclay, your former coworker. Super Ball is Jessica Christine, who was an editor in R&D when we were there.
We worked together on a bunch of projects.
I haven't seen Jessica in so long. I have no idea where she could be anywhere in the world or in the woods right now.
Probably both. Probably somewhere in the world and in the woods.
That's probably true. Yeah. It's funny. I don't know if it's like Clubhouse where you can be like, "Hey, I want to bring this person in," or like Mason Trace / Albert Burkett is here. I'm like, definitely would summon you into some chats here, my friend. But I don't know if I can do that. Oh, I can invite guests. All right. Well, we could hijack the meeting at some point if someone wants to join and try that out. So yeah, honestly, like one of the things I talked about in the book, going back to it, was this notion that most of the Magic that I played, like the majority of Magic I've played, like no one could possibly know what I was talking about because the cards didn't exist. And so when I got to the team for Odyssey, the first deck I built was around Cognivore, which was this, big creature flying that like got big for things in the graveyard, instants and sorceries. And they had like all of these bounce spells that were basically free. And then you could, I don't remember the name of the mechanic even, you could buy it back from the graveyard. Is it buyback? It's not buyback. What is it? It's flashback, right? Yeah, that's how. Don't get old, but yeah. So you would pay a blue to bounce a creature, and then you could pay 1 and a blue to bounce a creature again. So I ended up like playing that and repulses, and I just played a deck where no one could do anything to me, and I would just like make their life miserable, and then eventually I would play a carnivore, and I just like won every game, and it was a really bizarre memory. And then we nerfed everything, and I never won again. But it
Yeah.
was, it's really weird to have these experiences playing with these. The names of mechanics. I was talking to someone about. I don't even know the name of it. To me, it's delay and time spiral. Suspend, I guess, is what we called it, right? But I'm like, I call it delay
Yeah,
still,
it was
right?
delayed for the whole development, and then
Yeah,
and every set I'd have to relearn all the like because like you were there for a chunk of it,
yeah,
and then there'd be like 6 months of actually making the cards where I'm still involved, and then there's the actual launch when the people actually touch the cards where I'm still like so like I'm working on like a set 2 years out in the future and something that's just gone out the door at the same time, and
yeah.
it is a trip trying to keep all that stuff in my head at the same time.
Yeah, I haven't really articulated it, but one thing that happened with me in Time Spiral, obviously, I got really burned out at the end of Ravnica Block, and Time Spiral shows up, and then there's 110 extra cards, and I'm like, the way I make Magic is I try to understand everything that's going on in an environment at once and have like an awareness of all the cards and like what you might want to do with them. And so adding that extra cognitive load and then adding Cold Snap on top of it, which I just couldn't pay attention to, it was just like, uh the horse dies in Animal Farm is the way I feel about it. You're like, wow, all right, the horse dies. I know how it ends. It's just too much cognitive load, or it was for
Yeah,
me. And so, especially now with like AI development, you're like, how do you manage the cognitive load to do these things well? And then how do you communicate information well enough to do what we were doing back when? Like Magic was of a scope where I think, a bunch of smart people could kind of get organized at that pace and figure it out. But if the pace of development increases to such a radical speed, I don't know how you do it.
yeah,
Or it requires a different tool set than what we have today.
totally different tools and different skills. Like I feel like there was a point in like late 2004, like 3 month period where I knew Magic. And I feel like that is the only point in time when
Yeah.
anybody has come that close to knowing magic, knowing like you can't know it now. It's too big. There's
Yeah.
too much information and too many different linkages and too many different buckets of information. It's just not possible.
Yeah. It's gotten to a place where like being and like an information architect just seems like the most interesting job, right? Library science or like information science just feels like to me the most interesting thing one could do. Like, how do you make all of this make sense? I was talking to Albert Burkhead slash Mason Trace earlier in this week. There was something that came up in that chat that seemed really pertinent, and I can't remember it now, but it will come back to me because that's how life works.
Yeah,
Um, Oh, I remember. So John Finkel, like, had his way of understanding the game, and he just had, it didn't require context because he had a rule set that sort of, like, was branded into his brain, and he learned how to play games, not just understand a metagame. And so you have, like, a Kai Bude, who's, like, thinking about the metagame very deeply and knows every in and out of it, but it's a very different, like, level of cognitive investment and also time investment, right?
yeah,
Um it's interesting because when you're making magic, you're trying to find the right balance of both. But I would say, like, based on what we're describing, we're more on the Kai Bude side of like, oh, there's so much you must do to understand
yeah,
all the ins and outs here. Um, that I guess I kind of want to ask you just to give you an opportunity to walk through how you saw our development process, like how or even the processes after, like, would you how did the teams really reconcile that? Like, gathering information and then synthesizing it into, like, uh, learning laws, right? Codifying some understanding of where you're gonna go, right?
yeah. I feel like a lot of it was either unwritten or it was written down once in a multiverse comment. So I feel like it was a lot of like apprenticeship style knowledge where you had to like walk through everything with the people that have come before. Um, and it was a very sort of um, academic challenge based culture. Like like things were not just accepted. Um, they were questioned and um, pushed back on, um, and there were lots and lots of very strong, very different beliefs. Um, so I mean, it kind of came down to like mostly came down to sort of you, Bill, and Randy. One of you would have to like just say, "No, this is how it needs. This is how it needs to be," um, and people would accept that, and people would mostly go and like live that, unless it was something they really, really cared about. When they would just keep on trying to get the thing done the way they want it.
Yeah, it was a very interesting dynamic for someone like a Bill to manage because everyone is pretty young in their career at that point. We don't talk about it
Yeah,
that much, but everyone's incredibly young.
yeah,
20, Mike Elliott, I think, is maybe 40. Henry's in his early 30s, and then the rest of us are probably many of us are in our 20s.
yeah. Early
And
20s
it's
for this.
yeah, right. So you have a bunch of like raw talent trying to make this thing, and sometimes it's interesting thinking of kind of the famous people we had like do internships during that time, like personality meshing different personalities into this very complicated system where a lot of times really smart people are used to being smart on their own and having to have like 30 smart people to debate with all the time. You're not always going to be the one shining. And that was really interesting. I'm kind of interested. One thing that I don't talk about much ever, actually, I don't think I've ever talked about it. Yeah, I mean, Bill Rose was quite wonderful to work with and as a person. I think he did save magic. He actually, I mean, he really was like the mother hen of the studios. And
Yeah.
I got distracted by Mason Trace. What was I saying, Paul? Oh yeah. I think there's a question of who you would emulate in the department. I always felt like I was the closest to Bill Rose, like just like, oh, that's the guy who's closest to me. It was early and he's far more developed than I was. But like I'm like, oh, that's the person that I will learn from. I think there are other people that I learned from. Like the first person I saw that really challenged status quo in a way that felt like the way you should do it was Aaron Forsyth, where he would, do a mock-up and like ask a hard question and challenge like authority in a way that like made it clear that fun should be like the core ethos. But I've found in my career numerous times that like the fun making goon who makes you a little uncomfortable, but also brings you forward with like a sort of like creative joy in the questioning and like helps walk you through like how to think about designing something that's better for the people it's for. I really liked his attitude. And so I'm kind of curious of like, are there people you emulate today based on what their way of being then? Like Aaron and Bill are certainly high up there. Randy was always someone I learned from back when.
Yeah, I think Bill for the organization and guidance side of things. Um, I think, yeah, it was kind of when I joined, it was kind of interesting time because like development had really got going and was a real thing by then. Um, like over the like 2 years before I joined, um, and like it was very much a we've got to make this balanced focus, and that like I feel like
Yeah.
that went over the like my focus is always like what's the best experience for the humans that I'm serving, um, and like I feel like the designers kind of had that, but like they like I mean to a guarantee that they're all variations of mad scientist. Like
Right.
every single one of them is some kind of mad scientist, and they're all lovely, but I can't emulate that. So yeah, I feel like I'm Bill for sure. Um, like and like you and Bill both have the same kind of like calm. We're gonna like step by step through this process. Um, Mark Gottlieb is another one
Yeah.
where
That's great.
like the mad scientist of kind of like hopeful ideas like he would he would look a little bit more deeply and and do some do some harder thinking before he would just throw stuff out. So like I feel like he's another one where it's like I've always liked how he's approached things. And Brandon's another one in that vein where Brandon Bozzy where he would um probably one of the more like let's keep the focus on the fun people because he didn't come up through the pro tour like
Right. Yeah.
like he came up as a regional rep through in sales and then into development and creative. So um like I feel like the organizational balance of Bill and the the art creative team with the creativity of that team are the things that I most took away. Like I love the intelligence of all the developers, but I think that only works in a very set environment, and that environment doesn't come along that often. Like most of the time, you're way closer to humans than the developers were.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. There was a moment where like I would go to a tournament and I'd be like, who are these people? I couldn't relate to it. The audience had changed so much, or I had changed so much, and the 4 or 5 years in that time frame, you just have to like it's not a job someone should do forever, and that's kind of how you felt about the rules job too. You
Oh yeah,
can't do it forever.
sure. Yeah, it was great. It was enjoyable. There was a bunch of learning, but it was only gonna last. It was only I think I lasted. I could have gone on a little bit longer, um, but I kept spotting other problems that needed to be fixed, so I kept on trying to fix them. And then Bill was like, "You should just fix those problems." And we'll like his usual. We'll deal with that. You go fix this. And then like he did that at least twice more. Um, it was mostly good every time.
Who made s- who-
Six Edition Rules was
Randy?
Was Bill for the most part, with a bunch of me this was before I was hired, and then a couple of other. I don't know who else internally. I think William Jokush was part of that, but like it was Bill's brainchild, um, and it sort of set us up to like between 6th and 10th, we got to the point where we could actually do the current set of digital magic. So and like all that setup work happened 10 years before that really came to pass. Um, and yeah, like I think Mirage and 6th edition are the two and Odyssey on the creative side are the like 3 points where it's like, oh, this is an inflection point for Magic, where if any one of those was done a little differently, like things could be very very different now.
Very cool. What's the set after Odyssey, Paul? Can you answer that?
I mean, it was Tom and Judgment, and then the next one was Onslaught, wasn't it? Next block.
It was Onslaught. Onslaught was an interesting design where it wasn't going well, and this was the case where Bill Rose came in and made a bunch of changes, and it got better. That actually happened most of the time we were there. Not that literal, like Bill didn't always rescue, but someone always had to come in
Yeah,
and
there's
rescue.
usually a okay. We've been playing with this for 3 months. This stuff isn't like because R&D was a very very iterative department,
Yeah,
very like there were a few of us who were constantly trying to just like, okay, if we make this wholesale shift, things will get better. Um, and like, if Bill had to do that, that meant that the people who should be doing that had fallen down on their jobs. Um,
yeah.
but but yeah, I think yeah, like it was Onslaught was a interesting design time. It was.
It kind of worked out. Like it's
It
it's
did.
interesting. Odyssey versus Onslaught, just from a design perspective, I kind of while they I think I like them both for their like twistedness and like still feeling magic like, right? I think they're
I think once that initial design hump was fixed in Onslaught, I think its base structure worked so much better for the sort of low level, like all the draft and low level play, um, that it meant that the development team was working on sort of higher level things, and so like like you're polishing from just a higher base level of fun, um, like the 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 Odyssey base level of fun was not that great on the core mechanics.
yeah,
Uh, Flavor was great. Core mechanics were
yeah,
painful.
yeah.
So like you're just spending all that time trying to get back up to baseline, and then I feel like Onslaught just had a lot more player friendly stuff, and a lot more things that created uh, interesting gameplay. Uh,
It's a Johnny Block versus a Timmy Block, and Timmy's much easier to like. There are more Timmys out there than Johnnies. I feel from
there
like
are way more Timmys, but they just don't need many cards. Like
yeah,
like if you give Timmy cards, like, oh, okay, Timmy's got cards. Timmy's happy.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
Well,
Johnny needs a little more love, and Spike needs to be whacked with a baseball bat a few times.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, by the end of my time at Wizards, I definitely wanted to be making a game for not tournament players. I was
Yeah,
definitely on the side of like making a more fun product than making a more competitively balanced one. Um, and so it's interesting. Like I think the current competitive climate, from what I gather, is like not as good. But certainly from hey, when I go onto Facebook and I see someone has like a new card, I'm like, that's pretty cool.
yeah. The
Um,
casual fun environment is great now, and like that's what that's. I think that the one thing that stood out for me on the Onslaught design development was managing to just like open Rosewater's eyes, and because it was basically it was the first set where it wasn't rules coming to him with, no, you can't do this, but rules coming to him with, hey, this is a solution to all the problems that you have with the set.
yeah,
um like creating morph, when they thought like there's no way, there's no way, like he was like, there's there's no way this could possibly be coming out of the rule side. It's just like, this is a crazy designer mechanic. I'm like, no, we can do this, we can. And
yeah,
then he would, like, from then on, like, he would he would come to me super early in design and be like, "Hey, can we do this?" And I'm like, let me think about that." And I would like go away, think about it, try and twist it into a couple of ways that I knew would work, and then he could then pitch that, and then like after a few iterations of that, he would come in with it. It wouldn't be can this work? It would be how does this work? So like it was really nice sort of like feeling that I, like yeah I'm improving a bunch of Magic players' lives, but I have made this one designer's life so much better because he's now got a better through line to um, pitching the ideas that he has that are nuts and crazy and should never happen. And I'm like, yeah, we can make that work. We can make that work. How? Why not? We can just
Yeah,
like
you want your team to be thinking. I think I didn't do this well enough when I was at Wizards, but like it's certainly something that I learned for after, which is like you want to feel really excited about what you might pull off and then try to manifest it. And if the idea doesn't scare you, one of the things with this project, it's like every time I do something, I'm like, I get this weird like, what's going to happen? I shouldn't have done that. And you're a monkey pressing buttons. And as a designer, that's like what you want to feel. And if
yeah.
you're making a game or building a story and you don't feel that, you're probably doing it wrong, even if you can't pull it off.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I thought Onslaught was really fun. I felt pretty comfortable with that set coming out. And then Mirrodin shows up. And that was a really philosophically
Fine.
interesting one. That one was a really challenging one for reasons that are kind of odd to talk about. But, I think there are different philosophies that one can have of how to like make a set come alive. And in this case, it was this, hey, it's about artifacts. Let's make artifacts shine. It's their time.
Because the previous
And
artifact set was not an artifact set,
yeah, no. And
and the
so,
previous artifact set before that was also not an artifact set.
yeah, if you could go back, I haven't played the remastered sets, but I do think that like Mirrodin's one of those blocks I would love to go back and remaster because it wasn't quite what I would have wanted it to be. But yeah, I didn't agree with it. But I also acknowledge that I was not the leader of it. And I'm not, yeah, I'm not unhappy with it. A lot of the issues end up being power because of like what we were trying to do. We really wanted to make sure artifacts mattered, and we did, but to a fault, right?
And it was what we were trying to do, and the resources that were available to
Oh yeah.
work on it.
Yeah, I think creatively it's super cool. Like
Yeah,
I love the whole metal world thing, but pushing the artifact so hard and not acknowledging that like you need really strong counters to these things. It just and we were really thin on resources at that point. We did start putting a bunch of there were some pushes and pulls in the R&D department that like aren't remembered probably so much outside of this chat, but you would have like a desire to do non-magic games. There was a non-magic department. There was a group of people specifically focused on trying to push the needle. There was a game around collecting charms, like charm bracelet game. There was a game called Hecatomb, which Nate Heist talked about, which was an entirely new, novel way to like play a game, and it was not very good. Or at least wasn't very popular. And then there was a game called Dream Blade, which was an entirely new IP built around miniatures. And so they kept trying all these different Neopets game. I mean, there were all kinds of different distractions at play.
yeah.
And so I don't entirely understand why the decisions were made as they were made, but constantly we would have our mind share kind of taken from us or our resources taken from us to work on these other things.
Yeah, I feel like other than you and me, like basically everybody else who is working on Mirrodin
Yeah.
was a lead on another company important project, that non-magic project. Almost everybody
Yeah, I
was,
think that's right.
yeah, like Gleemax was spinning up around then as
Oh,
well.
that was don't even say Gleemax to me. Gleemax was basically like, you go to a startup, you go to the last startup I was at, and you start out and you're like, all right, we're going to have a nice life. We're just going to do it the right way. And it's going to be slow and plodding. And then you have enough resources to do things. And then, a year later you've got 15 projects, you got 200 people to manage, and it's like you're doing everything all the time, and like trying to
Yeah.
find the right like thirst for the talent you have, and like actually prioritize what you need to get done to like drive the right output. That was not like done well at that time. And
No.
I actually don't know that seemed to be something that happened afterwards and was came down from above from like the CEO that came after Chuck. Is my memory, but you would actually know better than I. Like,
Yeah.
why did
No.
why did Magic find a balance so that they invested in it properly?
I think we finally convinced the management that the way to win was to pour resources into the 40% margin product rather than in the minus 20% margin product. Yeah.
I give that guy a bonus, right? Thank God. I mean, it was infuriating, trying to get these sets out at like the quality we really wanted to with these like bizarro distractions going on.
Yeah. And
Like,
there was
what are you
also
doing?
like in that time, there was a like in addition to pulling resources onto the projects, there was a huge cost saving push across the company, um, which caused a ridiculously unfortunate event, which was the with the Mirrodin, the card frames for change for Mirrodin in the 8th edition. To save money, they were printing the text in just black, which means the mana symbols in the text of the card were just black. And we are making an artifact set where it is not necessarily easy to tell what color every single card is. So you have
Oh,
you have this just like, oh god, and like I remember Bill and I going to the production department. Was like, how can we fix this? How can we make this not? And like there was like this is how it has to be. And it's like, God. And then we get a Fifth Dawn, which is an artifact set with a 5-color theme
sorry about that.
with no color management. It's like, oh, for God's sake, this cannot be.
That's
Uh,
a set. That's a set I really liked the design for. That like
yeah.
uh wasn't as liked as I wanted it to be. It wasn't disliked, but it was like I really liked it, and like it's not. Yeah, like I said, it's like a fine set, but it wasn't really liked. It was just
If it had been
pretty
a
much liked.
standalone set, I feel like
Yeah,
it would have been well liked. I think it was coming off two heavy artifact sets, and it was a third one, and it was coming off a really rough tournament environment, and most of the people who were paying attention reviewing were tournament players. If it was like the Commander scene of today, and if that block is just released with some modern design technique tweaks, basically as is today, I think it's all loved because it's just
yeah,
like
yeah.
building on, and like it the pain points don't hit. The the there's so many good cards for the more casual players in those sets. But yeah, it was like the audience at the time was kind of looking up to all these tournament pros. Um,
Also, the first two sets invalidate a lot of the fun that we put in the third because they were too powerful. So a lot of the fun things, given what we know now about 1, 2, and 3 set block design and execution, what do you think the right format would have been for Mirrodin? I like having a lot of these concept sets. I wish were one set. I really wish Time Spiral had been one set. I feel like we could have done a lot with it, and it would have felt not over the top, and it would have de-risked it, right? So your more adventurous things, want in my mind, would be one set. But I don't know, Paul. You're closer to it. What do you think?
that's a I mean, there's two. That's a two-part answer here, which is there's the like, what's the right way to release these products for the world? Um, and I think at the time, one like it needed some through lines. But I think the through lines were way too tight, and I think they were way too connected with mechanic and flavor.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
that's right.
I
That's right.
think I think what probably would have been a better design is um, a really strong flavor through line with more mechanical variants. Like I feel like in some ways Odyssey did that a little better. Like like the three sets of Odyssey are mechanically super different, and
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the feel of those sets is super different. I feel like when we get to Ravnica again, that same thing holds true. Like those sets, like like mechanically, they're a world apart from each other because they fundamentally just have different mechanics. Like the mechanics didn't exist in the sets 2 and 3 that were there in set 1, but the creative through line was there. And I think the creative lets you tell that marketing story over a longer
Yeah.
period, and that's not necessarily needed for external people, but it's absolutely needed for the creative and marketing teams. Like you could staff up the creative team to design 2, 3 different worlds every year if you wanted, but you can't do that on the marketing side because the marketing people have to communicate to humans. So if you're communicating a bunch of different things every 3 months, nobody can keep up. And I feel like Wizards is kind of falling into that hole a little bit now, where it's just like it's impossible to keep up, so people stop trying.
Yeah.
Uh, and like that's like an off ramp that we avoided pretty well. So yeah, I think Ravnica is probably the best example of that done well. Um, but yeah, Mirrodin was. I mean,
Yeah. I would love to
it
take a
was just
shot at doing
yeah,
that one again because I do think there was something really special there from like I don't know what the feature sets were, but like if you could go back in time and try to soften it in a lot of ways and make it less spike forward, I think it would have been pretty neat. It's still like
yeah,
cool. It just there's so many different ways to do it, and it's one of the sad aspects. Like every block could be really differently compelling than it was, right?
yeah,
So Kamigawa happens. I take over from Randy. Randy goes up and starts working on digital and more magic oversight. I thought he did a great job the first 3 years. It's a hard job doing what Randy was doing. He was the lead of development, and like I thought, other than Mirrodin at the end, like
yeah, and
I
that
was
was
pretty happy.
like that was not
No, I agree.
because that was people taking resources away, including him. Like
Oh yeah,
he
yeah,
he he was taken away from a bunch of that stuff to do all the digital setup. Yeah, like I feel like getting getting development from where it was before I joined, where it was when I joined, to like the 2 years after, there was a clear step function improvement on that.
yeah. I think he did a really, really good job, and he's an interesting person where like I'll talk to him I think next week or the week after on here, but he's someone that whenever I talk to him it's as if like we never stop talking and we just like it's like hyper rational and very comfortable from start to finish. But I thought he was like very easy to work with from my perspective, and did a lot of really good things. Kamigawa happens and we don't like the set. We were forced to do a Japanese set by Bill, for whatever reason. And that could have been good or bad, but it did seem like the degree of difficulty to pull it off was hard. It wasn't clear who owned the set from like a design perspective. Like I think Brian Tinsman did, and then he left for a bit because needs to do his own things. And so this was a set where if you're going to try to pull off something that ambitious, it needed like a pretty clear it needed to be clearer what it was, what the goals were for the set and the block and, the ambition. That's something that I think we did poorly, being like compared to what we do in the digital world where we're like, hey, this is what we're going to try to do. This is a clear articulation of that. Let's write it all down and like have any idea of where we're going. Like I never felt that with Kamigawa. But what do you remember?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. Like I feel like there was a very clear vision for it. It just wasn't a very detailed vision. The vision was
Yeah.
do a set based in Japan, and like the reasoning was because TCGs were on an upswing in Japan, and they wanted to capture a lot of Japanese players. Um, and I've got to say, it was the absolute worst set to try and make to achieve that goal at the time. Like
Yeah. Like,
it
why
was
didn't we do market research at
impossible
all?
to
Like,
do.
this it's so funny going from like that time in Wizards to like what we do today, where you're like, why don't you just talk to the audience and like show them different possible designs and then just get feedback on them and then have them be more integrated into the process? Like we were like ivory tower with a culture we don't understand at all, as if like the brand team did nothing or the marketing team did nothing to better understand it. And I blame that on like the lack of integration across these departments, right? It just wasn't mature enough as an organization to really like know how to operate in a way that actually serves the customer, right? And I think that over the last 20 years, they've done a much better job of that. And
Yeah,
kudos.
yeah. Breaking down some of those silos has been a big help. But yeah, I think I feel like Kamigawa was kind of there was a lot of half measures going on. There was a lot of like, okay, we'll do this, but we'll temper it a bit. We'll do this, but we'll pull it
I,
back
uh,
a
I
little.
just, I wish we had like another month or two to like get comfortable. I think if we had had another month or two, we would have probably taken Splice and made it on instant and sorcery so that it was actually useful. We would have made the casting costs more aggressive so that it felt like a fun magic set and wasn't afraid of itself.
Yeah,
I
it was
think
a
we would have
thing. Yeah, and development was still like
we didn't have time.
because it was this was just if I remember the timeline right, like this would have happened just after the Darksteel bannings. Like
Yeah.
because there's that like 9 months gap. Like like we like R&D was in the middle of that ban fallout at the same time Kamigawa was finishing up development, and that just like I think broke some nerves as well.
I was scared to death. You once you push the line too far, you're in this position where you can't compete with Mirrodin from a power perspective still. And so like the pro tours for that Kamigawa block are beautiful. Like the things people did with that block were beautiful. The combination of Kamigawa with Ravnica, absolutely beautiful. Like the way that played
Yeah,
out and the diversity of decks available. The best probably I ever did. And so it was like beautiful, but like it didn't play well in that first year context with Mirrodin. And it also like wasn't very sticky.
yeah,
Um
and it wasn't. It also wasn't like it didn't give people the ability to love it. I think was another
yeah.
and another big thing. Like it it kind of like was a little standoffish in some ways. Like like that like you can't just go, oh, this big thing about it I love, because like the I think some people dove into the creative side and did love that, but like that wasn't everybody. But like the like the player archetypes didn't really have something they could hook onto. Like the the Johnny mechanics in the set didn't really hit Johnny.
Yeah,
The
that's right.
the I can't even I can't name a Timmy card from that set, and I feel like I should.
I think we thought like Kodama of the North Tree would be a Timmy card. We had a lot of legends, but like we didn't make them powerful enough. We had to
Yeah,
flip cards. We had a lot of material to make a good set if we had the confidence to go after it. And
yeah,
I think we had like been once bitten, twice shy with it. And that's another one where if you go back and you wouldn't have to change it too dramatically, but
you know what
you could
you
make
know
a
what
few changes to do a lot. Yeah.
I'm gonna steal the beginning question here, which is I'm not giving a beginning question, but give a really core change that I would have made right
Sure.
here, um, which is make legends one per deck,
Oh, that's neat. Why would you do that?
and just like ramp them up
It's
by
full.
by like 30%. like make it
Yeah.
make it be, because we
Yeah.
did do a legend rule change around then, but we could have done a different legend rule change. And
Yeah.
the rule is just legends of one per deck. No other, there's no other rule. Like there's none of this. You play it, it dies. None of this. Like you can clone it, whatever. It's magic. You can do this. It was just, and I like
It
20
would have
years.
put us in a much better position.
We should have
Yeah.
said,
It would have put us in a much better position
yeah,
because it would have given us this license to put power. When you get to Ravnica, the fact that it's multicolored gives you this license to make it more
right,
powerful. And in the case of Kamigawa, we didn't give ourselves that license given how things went forth. I think of it as an art block. If it had been one set and it was just this arty thing, like that's beautiful. I feel the same way about Time Spiral, and like two of the three blocks I led ended up being better art projects than like sets, right? Um, they're both really compelling as art, but they're not really as good as they could have been, I think, from like a game collectability business perspective at all.
yeah, yeah. I think Time Spiral. I think it also it. I don't know if it's the best way to do it, but it was an interesting way to have this like philosophy change come through, and be like communicated to players that the world is going to be different now. It did a good job of saying, okay, we need to make these 17 different creative changes to how magic works because it's not good going forward,
Yeah.
but we still want to respect the creative in the past. And it was a really good through line on all of that. Did that need to be 4 sets? Because it wasn't 3, because Cold Snap was
Fuck Cold Snap. Sorry for swearing. Like I really hate that set. Like I like it creatively. It was fun in theory, but like uh it was hard for making the game
yeah,
purposes. We had to make it in like 6 months while doing this really complicated set with limited resources, and Glee Max is starting up. Cold Snap is this, what's it, the straw that breaks the camel's back, or the brain in this case.
ugh, the brain of, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but we skipped Ravnica, and like you're not allowed to skip Ravnica.
No, that's rare because it was. I feel like that was the best design development experience
Yeah.
I've had on any set.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Like Mark had like a really great idea of how he wanted the design to work. I think Brady had a great concept for it. The art team on Dig Up. Yeah, it's kind of like you hear about it with music. There's just like sometimes the song takes one day to make and it's great, and sometimes it's like 3 months and you hate it. This was definitely like everyone's on the same page pretty much from the get go.
yeah, and I feel like Ravnica's also one where it was just a litany of designers saying, "Ah, I wish we could do," and me saying, "Yeah, we can." It's like
That's like the best.
how it works.
Like, yeah, that to me is like the greatness of making games through feel. And like what I really love about making analog games or games that are trying to be deeper long term experiences is you are constantly going through these cycles where you get to that point and you're like, let's do the hard thing. And you want to work on a product that gives you enough time to do that. It's a luxury, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, Ravnica.
We had resources again by this point.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a lot of like a lot of the developers, or there were a lot of developer designer hybrids. You have Devin Lowe, who's a great
Yeah,
designer developer hybrid. Aaron Forsyth's a great design developer hybrid. I think you have Turian. Turian shows up around that time. Matt Place is vibing really well. So it just felt like we were really grooving. And yeah, I guess that cohort of people, you, me, Dell, like we got more room because Randy was a pretty strong presence, a really smart guy. But like it was probably the first time where we were like free to be us, without as much oversight. And it was a real joy to get to do that. Um, One thing I remember from it, and this is some like very personal, but I I felt like I was not a very good manager. I'm in my 20s, and I think it wasn't clear anyone was. In fact, I would say no one was. So like we can give Bill a lot of credit for doing a lot of smart things, but from an EQ perspective, even though Randy's also very smart, like he didn't have a lot of management experience before, right? He was a grad student. He was a PhD student at Pitt for philosophy. smart teacher, really smart guy, has good EQ, but like
Yeah.
we
The
had so
good
many raw people to
Yeah.
develop. I just felt like I wasn't very good at
Yeah. The best manager in the R&D group at that time wasn't a manager then.
it. Yeah, that's
Elaine.
probably. Oh yeah, Elaine was quite wonderful.
Yeah.
Elaine's someone I definitely want to bring on at some point. I haven't asked her yet, but I think it would be a lot of fun. She was
Uh,
Elaine when I started out. Elaine and I were hired. We started the same day, and she went off to do Harry Potter and non magic things, and did
yeah.
some magic along the way. But went on to have a great career running the brand, and now runs our Lorcana. Lorcana.
Yeah.
But I think that would be a lot of fun. A big part of yeah, Elaine had great EQ. Working on those Harry Potter teams was actually really nice. Um, it was a nice vibe with more mature. Like we had William Jokic and Robert Kuchera and Elaine Chase. Like Robert and William had been professors in their prior life, and Elaine had been a teacher. And one thing that I and Randy had been a teacher too as a grad student. I found that skill set to be extremely valuable to learn from, and I was very envious of all of them because I just felt like they could convey information and lead a discussion much better than like a 23-year-old philosophy graduate student. Or it's like, wow. Um, I think that skill sets I appreciate a ton, and certainly chose to emulate after. What was your biggest impact on Ravnica Block? Do you remember like this? You're so uniquely interesting in that you have this like ability, you have this potential knowledge set across the full funnel of development. You're like, obscure like aesthetic issues with ink uh,
Yeah.
for changing
Um,
the color of the ink and saving money with that. Like anything from Ravnica that just feels like only Paul Barclay is going to know this.
um, Picking which guilds went in which sets.
Oh yeah,
That
yeah. Walk
was
through that.
um, I think
That was
It was a Rosewater idea, right? It was to
yes.
to because I remember someone went. The initial design was it was going to be all 10, and then like there was a very quick, oh god, this is never going to work. Um, and they wanted to split it up, and uh, that was the decree. Like it was just like it was we're going to split this up, and there wasn't a this is how we're going to do it. It's like we're going to do this. Um, so since I lived most of my life in Excel, and you guys live most of your life with cardboard and
FileMaker Pro. Yeah.
and then a little bit of FileMaker. I was like, okay, what are all the different permutations, and like how do we plot this out so that we can keep things mostly balanced. And like I do not remember the full flow of this, but I believe we adjusted set sizes, which was a production request because they were trying to get different printers printing different things, and different sheet sizes were important. Like, there's a lot going on in this time. And then it was like, okay, how do we get these so that we don't have too many of any given card in a set? We don't like, because like there's no way to do this evenly. Like you've got you've got 10 pairs, so you've got 20 units of cards. You're trying to divide that into three differently sized sets, and they have to have each one has to be a pair. You can't do it. So like got close enough to like, okay, there are two possible ways of putting this together, with the different ways the color wheel works, so that you 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 try and keep it as balanced over all the sets. And then I think it was Bill. Bill was just like, I like this one better than this one. I'm like, like they're like mathematically they're exactly the same. He's like,
There's the science. Yeah. No.
and I think there was a little bit of design coming and saying we kind of know what we want for some of these mechanics, because they had some of them. They had the identities of the color pairs, down pretty well. So I feel like they knew they wanted Is It Late? Because it was going to be a weirder mechanical identity, and they wanted to lead with a couple of very strong personalities. And I feel like they hit the strongest personalities in that first set.
I think that's all right.
Yeah. So yeah, I think like everything, like most things work out. And I think, yeah, like we didn't have many failures in Ravnica.
I don't think there were any. Yeah, I mean, it just felt pretty good across the board.
Yeah.
No broken anything. And the last pro tour I went to as an employee was in Hawaii, and it was Ravnica and Kamigawa, and it was there were probably 30 to 50 different decks that were competitive. And it was really the first time, and probably maybe the only time, where like it was like, wow, okay,
Yeah.
this is going to be the most like, that was the goal for me anyway. It was one of my goals to try to figure out how can you make a game that gives you that much flexibility so that people can express themselves competitively however well they want. It was kind of emotional for me because I was kind of like burnt out to no end at that point. But it was really like, it was hard to enjoy it at that time, but I think it fit wonderfully in with like Time Spiral and what we did in Kamigawa in a way that I'm really proud of us all for doing. Is 0 the optimum number of broken cards? This one's really tricky, right?
Yeah.
Because with Time Spiral, like with a couple of sets, we intentionally like didn't bloat power and paid the price for it. Like
Yeah.
if we had made things more obviously collectible, which power helps with, then like the sets would have done better commercially. So it's like,
I think the answer is a True Detective Series 4 quote. Wrong question. Like we don't make
yeah,
broken cards. Like broken cards are a result of trying to make cards that are both interesting and playable. And I think the correct answer is you don't want to shoot for 0, because if you shoot for 0, you miss all the goods. Like I would love a revisit of Fallen Empires where
yeah.
those characters get a good showing. Um,
And those hominids, no, I'm just kidding.
and like Fallen
Salads.
Empires also had one of the most powerful cards of its time period. Like it didn't have any other good cards, but like him to Torak is ridiculous.
Great card, yeah.
Yeah, and totally unknown by the designers of Elf at the time. They weren't expecting it to be a powerhouse.
Yeah, it's funny. No one's asked for that remaster set, I would guess.
Yeah, I feel like that whole storyline was like that early Magic storyline that like it could have been so good. And the story, like I still like have fond feelings for the story, but like it's gone by the wayside because all those sets were weak and off in some way. That whole Sarah's Realm storyline and the Urza Mishra storyline, which was in theory this big, like the big overarching storyline of the first 6-7 years of Magic. Like it ties all the way in
Oh
through.
yeah,
It ties all the way in through Time Spiral.
yeah, it does.
Like
It's
that
their characters
storyline
there.
and it's just like it was never really a storyline. It was all like super background, and like it wasn't like I mean, maybe it wasn't a good story, and that's why we shouldn't go back to it. But I think the Sarah's Realm story it's a great potential setting for like more interesting, more interesting world building.
Yeah, that brings me to a question that no one's going to want me to ask. But I'm going to ask it just as a theoretical, like, I guess with where the world's going, should Wizards like make this more of an open source thing where if you wanted to go off and like explore that fiction and not feel too scared of it, should they do it? Do they do that? I don't, what do they do to like empower the community to really like extend the IP beyond where it is?
I don't feel like they. So I think there's two things here. I don't feel like they do that.
Yeah.
Um, B, I don't feel like they're. I don't feel like Magic is an IP
Mhm.
in the same way that
Right. It's a rule system, right? So
it's
then
a,
you end up in this position where you're like, why can't Paul Barclay and Brian Schneider make these sets? Right.
yeah. So it's like I think open sourcing it would be. I think like they've done like very very constrained open sourcing in the past. Like there's been little bits both on the story side and on the design side of like competitions and things like that. Um, but yeah, I feel like I mean my personal feeling is they're losing their way a little bit with the current
Yeah.
sucking in a whole bunch of other IPs,
Mhm.
and that works as long as there are more good IPs to suck in. But people are not creating good IPs at anywhere near the speed that is is needed, and like there are like the ones that they're pulling in at the moment, like they're still great. Like
Mhm. Yeah, you're
Avatar,
right.
Fallout, etc. They're great IPs,
Mhm.
um, but like they're more subsety than some of the initial ones. Like like the Lord of the Rings stuff like really pulls in a
Yeah.
broad audience. So does the superhero stuff, but like it's getting a little more narrow and niche, and like that like I feel like they're stretching to try and achieve it because they have a bunch of numerical goals they got to hit, rather than looking at what the best thing is long term. I think it's going to break at some point. I don't know when, I don't know how, but um, I think I don't know. Death of Magic has always been an interesting one. Like it's got to die at some point. Like everything dies. Whether it takes a year or 3,000 years. Like something will.
Should I title the podcast that? I was going to call it Paul Barclay, but everything dies has like a ring to it. It's like it's enduring, even if it's not
Yeah.
obviously.
Um, but at the end of the day, it's still fun. So yeah, I mean, I feel like there could be a point where the the death of magic is it's suddenly super easy to create a bunch of custom stuff, and people it's like I can make whatever I like.
That sounds like not death; it's a rebirth, but it's in the hands of the audience, right?
Um,
But it's meaning like the strain of Magic as a game will probably live on, just like chess has lived on. But like the way it's essentially owned changes.
like that certainly could happen outside. Like, and but I think it's going to be one of those big discontinuities that would affect or like I think the other the other way is private equity or politics gets involved somehow,
Yeah.
and that just ends up squashing it down, and then it has to be rebuilt, and there's a whole bunch of potential messes there. Um, but yeah, I
We're
think
basic. Yeah. No, go ahead.
yeah, I think it's deep in the psyche of our generation. Um, I feel like it's coming. it's coming through at least somewhat in the younger generations. Yeah, I mean, who knows? Like,
We're kind of taking the way I think of our conversation right now is you're taking, instead of the planes of time spiral, we're taking like the game of Magic and putting it through the time spiral, um, in terms of like where it might go and bringing all these different potential like alternate realities or time and whatnot. I'm bringing us back to time spiral because we did it. You were not the rules manager at this point, right? You had moved off and you were
no,
in the
yeah.
production.
Well, I think what I did a bunch of stuff on Time Spiral, but yeah, I was off doing a whole bunch of other um, product development stuff at that point. And yeah, so
Yeah,
what?
Time Spiral was an interesting one. It was similar to Kamigawa, where the design came in and we were like, "This isn't right," and the team was starting to work on it on the development side, and like there were people on the team that were like, "This is so far from good, we have to throw it back," and um, there's no time to do that. Like you can't do that. You have to do the job, and so we had to change the team a little bit because the maturity wasn't there that I wanted to see, which is a weird thing to do managerially, but. Um, I feel like we put a lot of love into that set. There are a lot of things you would do to try to simplify it. I've heard Dominaria, I think, is the set that like does it right. Um, but like it was fun. Unlike with Kamigawa, we were like, hey, let's not flout the reprint rules, but like have fun with them. So Juzam Jin comes back as a sliver, and we had a lot of fun trying to like juice the set as much as possible with all of these like beloved cards. What do you remember from Time Spiral Block? It's been so long.
Um, it's feeling like that there were too many throwbacks.
Yeah.
Like it went too deep down the playing to what people already know, and didn't it's the one set that we've made that didn't show a hope for the future,
Yeah.
like at all. Like there was no like, and here is how Magic is getting better. Um,
Yeah, I think that's true. It was so nostalgia rich that it didn't like, it kind of tripped on its own
yeah,
theme, right? You have like delay, which is, or suspend as Magic players would call it. Is really neat and novel, but it's kind of like a wrench. It's not like a shiny object. Playing with time isn't as cool as having a creature that's off.
I feel like again, I think it's also like it's playing with time, but it's kind of half measures on playing with time.
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh yeah, we pushed this thing into the future. Like there was no like we didn't do anything with predicting the future. We didn't do enough around like messing up the timeline. We didn't have any. We could have done a timeline matters subset where you've got different cards from different timelines, and who knows.
Should we have done the color purple?
That is
I
a
don't know.
great question.
We were talking about adding a sixth color to Magic, the color purple. And if we had done it, it would have been pretty novel if you could have done it well.
Yeah, I think I think the answer is that we were correct to not do it, because I think the hope of a sixth color is better than it actually existing. I think you don't need that at any, like if you're doing that, then you could just have as easily have done something else that was better than different than that.
Mhm.
Like because like and I think that that's both from a sort of mechanical and player experience point of view, but also from a flavor point of view. Like, I don't think there was any timeline that would have included a sixth color.
Yeah.
I don't think it hits on the flavor side either. Um, but I feel like it didn't go far enough. It needs to go way farther. Like and just really play into some of the time period, time changes, um, stuff that could have been done. But that would have needed design and development working as a close team, and that didn't really happen until like what 4 years after you left. Like it was like the midway through Aaron being the magic director. He started that shift to tie things together way way more closely. So yeah, I feel like I feel like there are many better ways of doing that set. Um,
Oh yeah.
but
That's another one. Like it would be fun to have gone back and done it a different way.
yeah,
Well, there are a couple things on my mind as possible things to do next. Um, I don't know how you're doing on time. Are you doing on time?
I got all the time in the world today.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna plug my computer in. But I'll
I will take it all. So we have a couple of things. One, we could talk about what happened after Wizards for you. I think we could talk about bringing someone in from the chat. I have a feeling I accidentally sent an email to everyone on my distribution, and that's why all these wonderful people. Hello, Mark Dash. Hello, Mason. Grace. Hello, everyone else. Hello, Michelle Jang. But I don't think I did that intentionally, but it's nice to have you all here. I think, oh, well, I was like, wow, this is going much better than I thought. And then I was like, and I have failed. I told people I wouldn't spam them, and then Substack tricked me, is my excuse. But next time, I don't know. If you like it, that's fine. So we could talk about what happened afterwards. We could bring someone on and have them ask questions if they want. Why don't we start with you? What have you been doing with your life?
I've been having kids.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, I love talking about kids and parenting and games. But talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I've got two full on gamers for sure.
What do you guys play?
We are playing a ton of board games. Ellie Mae is big into a bunch of board games. Azul, Twister.
Yeah.
What else does she like? She likes Yahtzee. Alice is way more on the RPG side of things. We've been playing a bunch of the old school Star Wars role playing game because it's on my shelf down here. And she's like, "Oh, what's this? This is a Star Wars book. Can I read it?" And it's like, "Can we play?" And then from there, it's like, "Okay, I want to get all the D&D books and everything else." So like,
that's really cool.
Fully into that. I've got neither of them into Magic yet. I feel like that will probably come, but I don't want to force it. I want to just let them explore what they're really interested in, and then try and explore that with them. But yeah, they're a fun bunch, these two. Creating plenty of chaos and fun.
That all makes sense. Yeah, we played Sushi Go last night. That's a game that we're pretty big into. The older one, Micah, is very bookish, so she's reading a lot of the time. But like, if we wanted to get to the deeper games, I think she could handle it. No one ever asks me to play Magic, and like, I don't force it. I do like whenever a new set comes out and people are like from like the distribution. It's usually Tom LaPeel. He's like, "Hey, this set would be great for kids" or something. You're like, stop, Tom, stop posting all this crap. And then I buy it and it sits in my closet. It's back there. I could prove it. Um, and I just have like a bunch of, I have Dominaria. He's like, this is the right way to do time spiral. I'm like, and then they did another time spiral remastered. I'm like, come on, just stop talking. I should just mute the guy. It's obnoxious. Anyway, so Albert Burkhead, if you kill someone's broken card, does it just die? Do you test higher mana cost? Yeah, we would, you can make any edit
Uh,
in development.
yeah. Sometimes it just goes away. Sometimes you change the mana cost. Sometimes you change the ability. And that's how you get Skull Clamp.
That was my 10-letter word. That was my 10-letter word. That happened after we were done with development.
Yep.
And I am still bitter about that showing up on a card after we had already said like the set was done. I am furious still. That card, to the credit of the person who made the change, it's like one of those fun, like, should I do, press the button things? And so from that perspective, I do like to reward doing that some of the time. It does make things more fun, but it didn't this time. This one was, that was self-inflicted damage. And I will never forget. You can feel the strong 10-letterness, my answer to that question. Was that your answer to that question? I have no idea. What card would you change like
Yeah.
20 years later?
I mean, Skull Clump's a good question. Good answer that, but I don't feel like it's the best answer. Yeah, Skull Clamp was changed from what, a +1 toughness to a -1 toughness?
Yeah, like in like final pass, like
Yeah,
after like all
yeah.
the playtesting was done. It was like a total like
And +1 card to +2 card.
surprise.
Well, I think.
Yeah, yeah. It was like exactly not how you want your development process to go. It was bad. It was a bad look, I'll put that way. It didn't work. Your process changed after that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it was, I don't know, like, the card I would most want to have changed, like, so if we change Skull Clamp, then, the Mirrodin block is still, just overpowered in awfulness, but it's not quite as bad. Um, it doesn't. I
Skull
think.
clamp. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
I think. I think. I think there's. For me, it's more like what are the things that were added to the game that I think should not have been. Um, And I think there's a few of them that might be up there, like potentially a force of will is on that list of just like, it's 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 allowing things that, it's enabling things that aren't doing what we really want it to be doing. I think but like fundamentally, it's not clear that changing any one card is enough to have a big timeline change unless you change it massively. Um,
There weren't that many really broken cards in that window of time.
yeah, and there were lots and lots of really terrible cards.
Don't even. I feel like pretty bad about that. It was an interesting aspect of Time Spiral that only no one would know. But in Time Spiral, we stopped making as many bad cards, and because of the way the set was going, we actually made much more playables. So instead of having like 22 playables and having to play something bad, we gave you 30 playables, or the players 30 playables, so that they actually could build something interesting and different and combine things in different ways. But like we did have like for various reasons a desire to have cards you wouldn't use, and like for some reason I had great relish in making those bad cards. Like we had to make bad rares every set. It was like considered like a requirement. And
Yeah,
so cards like one with nothing, you're like, it was just a giggle when you make it because you feel like you have to. But over time, we stopped doing it as much, and I'm proud of us.
Yeah, yeah. I think that philosophy was really, really bad.
I agree. I hated it.
It's not the surprising. Jitte is another one on the list of changing a broken card makes it worse, because the reason that Jitte got its -2/-1/-1 counters ability was because it previously had an ability that gave you 2 mana.
It was
And
channel or something. Yeah, it
it was
was just
it
ridiculous.
was yeah, and it was which wasn't mechanically broken at all. It was probably a little good, but there was a rules problem with it, which is that you can't have an ability. You couldn't at the time have an ability that sometimes creates mana and sometimes just creates mana and sometimes does other things. And my suggested solution was my usual refrain at that point, which was like, okay, let's just change the rules to what we want the rules to be. And Dylan was like, nah, that's too much. We'll just change the card. We don't need to have a bunch of work. We'll just change the card. So they shifted it to the -2/-1/-1 counters. And yeah, -1 is not a thing to add late in the game, apparently.
Mhm.
Just,
Feelings.
yeah.
Nothing
Yeah.
more than feelings. The good news is you can destroy the artifact, and it's like that's why I like Skull Clamp when it comes out and gets going, it's over with like
Yeah.
Kite, like we could make a lot of anti-artifact hate and we did. And it
Yeah.
wasn't as ridiculous. It sucked, but it was like
Yeah.
tolerable suckage versus Skull Clamp, which I was really proud of Gabriel Nassif. Um, you and I went to Worlds. We drove down
Yeah.
together.
That was a great road trip.
Yeah, it was a really cool road trip. Obviously, the West Coast is really beautiful, and we knew we had screwed up with Mirrodin, and there was a block format tournament, and Nassif played tooth and nail this crazy deck that didn't do anything like what everyone else was doing, and did quite well with it. And he saved us a couple of times where you're just like, wow, I love this guy. I don't know him, but like the fact that he does such weird things with the cards, like he uh he made me feel good on multiple days during like that harsh mid Mirrodin time when we're trying to
Yeah.
come
Yeah, 'cause
back
that
from
was the
that.
thing, like, the decks that you saw in the wild, I mean, I feel like the best sets that we made were the ones that created a tournament environment that was nothing like what we played in-house.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely nothing like it. And the worst ones were like, "Oh, yeah, we designed this set. Here's the deck. Here it is in the wild. There's 3 different ones that I was all designed in. This is exactly how it's playing out." It's like, oh, we were
yeah.
so
I would guess if you looked at like the attention put towards sets versus the output, like attention matters a lot, and you can tell that with like Magic. It's like 10 times the size of the team,
yeah,
maybe bigger than it was. When you talk about even when I got there, um, people are making like a bunch of different minis games. There's all these sports games going on, the NBA and MLB and NFL, and
yeah,
everyone's getting distracted all these different ways. And it makes for some fun push pull. Dual Masters ended up doing really well for a while, and so that pulled people away. Just a bunch of people from R&D. I think Mike Dene and Andrew Finch moved over to the D&D side and did a lot of great work there. But you know, the push pull on resourcing definitely was keeps you on your toes.
yeah, yeah.
Lots of room for growth opportunities.
I'm glad we didn't break Magic during that time period.
Yeah, congrats to all of us, really. It is nice to see it still going as strong as it is today.
Yeah.
It's nice to work on things that endure. It's funny, I worked on Cityville, which was the biggest game, I think, in the world, certainly in the Western world. 30 million people playing it every day. It's like, I think, 1 to 2 billion installs. Like, at that time, 15 years ago, it was like a really big deal, but like it's dead. It's been dead for 13 years, and it's,
Yep.
Magic is far more rewarding to have worked on than the biggest digital game of its time.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
Where should we go next?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you've had a pretty interesting career, right? You started your own company after Wizards. You started Nova Blitz,
Yeah.
and oh wait, what does Mark Schick say? But I am curious. Like you've ended up going down these much more entrepreneurial paths after after Wizards, like getting deeper into that. Yeah, what's happened to you? What do you remember from the last 15 years? Like, how did your life change, and what are you doing now?
Um, yeah, so like feel like it's changed. It's changed a lot in some ways and not a lot in other ways. Like it's definitely like doing the entrepreneurial side of things. It's harder in a lot of ways. Like there's always stress on you. There's always pressure. You don't like you're not working on something that's super successful. You're working on something that no one's ever heard of, and you're trying to make it. You're trying to make something that's as great as you can make it. Um, I mean, you're actually trying to make something that's greater than you can make. You just don't know yet.
Yeah, yeah, that's always true.
So yeah, I've done a bunch of loops of that, and learned a whole bunch of things. Like learned how to like learn how to write software, and like that's, I'm doing way more of that now than ever before. Learned a bunch of how not to do startups. Learned a little bit about how to do startups. I don't think there's a right way to do it. But I know I've learned how I enjoy living my work life. And it's definitely not the San Francisco venture capital supported
Yeah.
startup. It,
If you look at my LinkedIn now, like my about me is like it's not a middle finger to like that lifestyle, but it's just, a half finger.
yeah,
um yeah, there's something in our careers I forgot about. We were both executives at mental health companies.
yeah.
I was head of product at a company called Modern Health, which ended up doing really well. And you were at
I was head of project at the Gottman Institute, which is
yeah.
uh, marriage therapy.
Yeah, we actually talked about the Gottmans a lot at Modern Health as like a beacon of how to do therapy in certain spheres. So it was really odd that Paul and I went from like deep game making to like caring about people and trying to figure out how to do that well.
I mean,
Um,
yeah, for me, it's like it's in some ways it's super similar on an odd way, which is like
yeah,
it's like what I was doing at Wizards was writing software that ran on humans, and basically what the mental health therapists do is debugging human software and making it run better. So in some ways, it's like this very different path. In other ways, it's just like yeah, this is a fairly natural fit. Like you can use games for game uh, technology and gamification in all kinds of positive ways for people. Um, you can you can you can really apply a lot of what we've been doing to it. But also, it's something I care about. It's something that like I'm probably going to go back to at some point, because I don't think it's a solved problem, and I think it's an area where anybody attacking it from a venture capital perspective can be successful, but can't actually long term solve the problem because the system is not set up to do that kind of work. Like the obvious way is to give people painkillers and make something that's a full-on painkiller, and people just subscribe, and they're like paying for the rest of their lives. But like that's not really the I don't feel like that's the best approach. That's not the best way of actually just solving some of these
yeah.
things.
There's something else I'm kind of sensing here, which harkens back to like who you hire to make games like this. And one thing that, like, again, like, none of this had occurred to me consciously before, but, like, a lot of the people we worked with, you're working with people in a setting where you have to collaborate and kind of feel out where the conversation should land. So everyone has to have a certain level of empathy. Not only do they have to be, like, analytically bright, but, like, they need to be able to feel the conversation and, like, care about the other people in it. And so, like, if you were going to build a team to do these sorts of things again, like, for me, it's like a pretty eye-opening conversation where it's like, oh, like, I wouldn't have thought, oh, that's a checklist item I would inspect for so consciously, like, based on how the team was being built out. But, like, we're both talking about, caring about people quite naturally to our OS. And it's like, oh, wait a minute, is there something deeper there that I hadn't seen before?
Yeah. Yeah, the other interesting thing coming out of that was it's super interesting to see people who have like this amazingly good empathy EQ in situations that they are not fully comfortable with. And these are like therapists with 20, 30 years of experience, like trying to solve problems that they don't understand and they're not familiar with the space, and how quickly that sort of drains the EQ that people normally have, and like turns it from this like, okay, we're all paying attention to feelings, into this like much more combative natured space. There's an interesting piece there where like like EQ isn't just natural and applicable across the board. Like it's very much dependent on a whole bunch of other factors, like your goals and your understanding of what's going on, um, which I hadn't experienced that until that org where you're surrounded by a bunch of high EQ people acting in ways that are not necessarily high EQ all the time.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is an eye opening little space. Like, why is this the way it is? Um, so that's also something that like I feel like there's something to dig into there, um, on how to like it's not just enough to be good at it. You have to know how to use it when in times when you're not good at it, which is like a lot of the Gottman teaching is about that. It's about like how can you still be the person you want to be even when you're in situations that are potentially super hard and taxing. If you can do that, then you can make the incremental improvements you need to stay on track and get back on track.
All makes sense. Now that we've had these deep insights and epiphanies, let's go take this magic question. that's that's how it's funny how magic works. Kind of a big question, but when you have a banning such as the affinity bands, how does that affect ongoing design and development processes?
I think it ties exactly back to what I was just saying hilariously, which
Yeah,
is that you've suddenly got a bunch of people who are, in this case, very smart about their specific skill set, and they're knocked for six. It's like people are noticing them in bad ways. Because like internally at Wizards, R&D didn't really get noticed in good ways that often. Like
yeah,
externally, everybody loved the R&D guys. Internally in Wizards,
not popular.
nobody cared. Like they were sequestered from the other internal teams as much as
I, I felt like the team was a little resented. I actually, in the book, I have a line that's like kind of subtle to this nod. But if you were in the R&D loop, you felt really good about R&D, and D. And if you weren't in R&D, you kind of felt like they were. I don't know what the right word is. You're in these meetings with people who are too smart, and they're not necessarily the nicest about it. Sometime, you're not thinking, "Hey, I want to be a part of that group." You're thinking like jerks,
yeah,
and so
like
there's that
yeah,
component, right?
yeah, like R&D was kind of like the football players and cheerleaders of Wizards. It was like the sort of like popular in crowd.
Exactly. Yeah. I think in terms of processes, Mark, it's probably changed a lot in the last 20 years. In my mind, like the elephant never forgets, which is both good and bad, because the elephant should forget sometimes. But R&D in my time would meet every week and talk through whatever the biggest issues were. And so you're always essentially trying to figure out the right lens for the right big problem that you're tackling as part of the core function of the job. So is there like a manual or like tome of all the rules and logics of how we're going to approach a problem? I never saw one. I wasn't going to create one. I wasn't that organized. But there's ongoing discussion. It's definitely more like a congress and like an organic open discussion than some sort of like legal document process.
Yeah, I feel like maybe we would over index on responding to the negatives, and we did not look for the positives enough. Um,
Mason Trace, inner office drama. I basically have a do no harm policy, which obviously I kind of wrote about today. But I won't hurt. No one deserves to feel sad 30 years later, except for
yeah, I
no
mean,
one. No one. Yeah.
I think this is an interesting one because like there was plenty of intra-office drama, but it was almost all positive, almost all.
It netted positive in the end, even though some people would have to go drink or something
Like
to blow off steam.
there was, I mean, definitely like after leaving, after I left R&D, like R&D is a little insulated from a lot of that drama for what we just talked about.
Yeah.
But like after leaving there and like still being on the track of how do we improve and make things better, lots and lots of drama between the brand business folks and the production and finance and some of the other
Yeah.
just in
The way
terms like like I feel like there were a bunch of us who were very heavily business minded, um, who were just not happy to let the status quo run, and we're like, no, we like if we're doing something that doesn't make sense to do, we need to stop doing this. So I run into a lot of inter-office drama, because I kept on being like, okay, this specific set of action isn't working, and usually usually the change that would be required to change that would actually impact people's jobs. So this was like I'm literally advocating for people to not have jobs anymore, which is a tough thing to do, and it's a tough thing to hear.
Yeah.
And like some of the time, like people would listen pretty quickly. Some of the time, it would take them years to like, okay, yeah, maybe we shouldn't do all these random new little games. We should be focusing on growing the big brands we have, and like maybe we're not right making 30 low margin RPG books every year, and we should just do a couple, and not lose a bunch of money, but grow the brand in other ways. And that that was there was always stress around that, and almost always that didn't happen. But like you look back, like I generally had a rule that okay, within 6 months to 18 months of me saying something controversial, something would be moved in that direction at least a little bit. And I was like, okay, I'm fine with being one of the agitators and making things better. Yeah, like
Yeah.
for the most part, like everyone was trying to pull together and do really good work. Once I got into the dealing with all the technology side of things, and basically trying to be the buffer between the tech team, which I understood, I could speak their language, I knew what their challenges were, I knew how they operated, and the business marketing team, which I understood, I could speak their language, I knew what the challenges were, but those two teams had such a hard time talking to each other, because they didn't understand each other. They didn't understand what the needs of the other groups were. That was painful and tough. But we got there in fairly heavy ways. Like, at one point, I told the VP of marketing, this list of 45 different priorities you have, you can pick 3, and these 2 have to be on the list. and he sat back for a second and was like, yeah, we need to do something different, don't we? And so people really did want to make these things better. Like everybody cared. Like I don't think there were people there who were just coasting, unless they'd been like squashed down for years and they were burned out. Like that the burnout was the big problem at Wizards. It wasn't people coasting or people, and eventually like everyone burns out. Like Brian burned out, I burned out, and if I look back on it, I would absolutely take that job. I would probably say yes faster, which would be monetarily less good for me, but I would absolutely take it.
Yeah,
such a
lot
good
of fun. Yeah, I think inside R&D, there's this dynamic in every company that I'm at, every team that I'm at. Whoever makes the decisions is always going to be angering someone. If you're the creative team and you have Randy making the calls, Randy's going to bias towards the tournament player because that's what he's been hired to do. And I think Randy did a pretty good job of managing those conversations, but like the creative team would still resent him sometimes for not seeing everything through their lens. That type, I'm sure that's true for me too. Whoever the decider is, if there are decisions that feel like they're 60-40, you're going to make someone upset at different points. And so over the window of time that you're making those calls, you're going to have some people that like agree with you a lot, some people who agree with you some, and some people who don't. But in the end, I think you could talk to anyone from R&D could talk to anyone. It's definitely the groups outside of R&D, I think, that you're like most likely to be in conflict with. Like if Rosewater and I don't agree with something, like we're going to talk about it and we're going to get to a conclusion. We want to make the game the best we can. Like I certainly will hear him out and I listen to him more often than not. Right. So it's, I don't know. You're all in it together.
Yeah.
Do you each have your own limited print card that your kids will sell for $50,000? You first.
Oh, I have a card with a ridiculous story.
What's that?
So I own one Black Lotus, and I traded for that Black Lotus and I believe that I am for sure the only person to have traded a Magic card with the TSR Corporation.
Okay.
So Gen Con UK 95 or 6, they were going to burn. The TSR was doing a charity, and they were going to burn a Black Lotus for charity, and they had a really nice Beta Black Lotus. What do you have there? Oh yeah,
this is as close as I get. Whatever card is under here, this is my brother's championship trophy, which I've been holding for him for a while. That is the $50,000 card. Continue. Keep going.
So they had a really, really nice quality Beta Black Lotus. What I owned at the time was this utterly beat to crap Alpha Black Lotus. So my offer to them was like, wouldn't you prefer to burn an Alpha Black Lotus? And they're like, huh, that sounds like a great idea. So made the trade. They they uh, they they burned the card, and then a year later they were bought by Wizards. So no one else ever has a chance to trade a Magic card with the TSR Corporation. So that is the
That is a really strange story, but it's
yeah.
awesome that you still have your stuff. You had a pretty huge collection.
Yeah, I've got rid of most of it. I'm down to some boxes of old product that I want to draft with at some point, and
Yeah, me too.
a bunch of commander decks that I put together last year, and I still have not really had a chance to play with them. But that's the plan for this year is play a bit more Magic.
That's nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that sounds nice. I'm actually going to go to MagicCon. I think I should book it soon. I was going to take my dad and my daughter, so 3 generations of
yeah.
gaming Schneiders, and just check it out. I don't know if you're interested in that, but
What was it?
I think it's in May, and I actually am interested in. My daughter's really big into art, so rather it being like forced gaming, like it'd be kind of fun for her to like talk to the different artists and maybe do some drawing with them.
Yeah,
I think it's early May. So if you're
that'd be fun.
interested, let me know.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're
I
talking
might
about
check
going
that
for
out.
one day. It just seems fun. I haven't been around obviously in forever, but
Yeah,
it just seems like, oh, it's good to put yourself in situations where you can feel the change over time and just gain
yeah,
perspective.
yeah. I hung out with some Magic folks last weekend because Dave Guskin was in town.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, so it
how's
was
he
fun
doing?
fun to see some of that. He's doing great. Yeah, he's
That's awesome.
doing Riftbound for League of Legends. So another
I, I've heard it's really good. It's so weird being far from it, but I'm sure all these games are a lot of fun.
yeah, fun from those designers was never a problem, except the Star Wars TCG. We won't talk about
No, please don't make that. That was, I was happy to get in and get out on that one. Poor Huckleberry, but
that.
um, well, cool. Yeah, I think any last any last requests. Not that anything bad happens at the end of these games.
um, I don't know. Another thing is we used to live together.
That's true. I used to actually have like things in that office
You
after.
not this office, the upstairs office. You still
Oh yeah.
something in that office upstairs.
Oh, what is the thing?
Yeah. It is a piece of paper above the door that says "Remember."
Oh, hilarious.
20 years later.
Yes. Oh,
Uh,
give me 1 second. That's crazy. I I'll tell you something about that. That was something when I went to Austin. I just had this thought. Can you hear me?
yeah,
I had this thought where it was like, oh, the word that like resonates for me the most that like I just feel right now is remembrance. So I put it up on my wall as just like a hey, whenever I leave the house, like have a thought that brings you back into like who you are. And I was reading Sacred Hoops by Phil Jackson, which is this great book. And outside of his house, he has a flag with the word remember on it. And I read this after the fact, but I was like, it's really interesting when you have a weird tidbit like that and you're like, I'm not alone, right? So it's really cool. I had forgotten that, funny enough, given the theme of the conversation, but I'm glad it's stuck and it's doing what it's meant to do.
yep, yeah. Eventually, like I'll have to repaint the room and it'll come down, but it's been there almost 20 years now. So,
I do think for a gaming audience, Egg Night is an interesting thing to
oh god,
talk
yeah.
about. I don't know why we call it Egg Night, but we did.
50 eggs.
Yeah, it is. There's a quote from Cool Hand Luke that came up in R&D a lot about nobody eating 50 eggs, and so collectively we would eat the 50 eggs. But it was all about playing like you could play Yahtzee for $1 each, or you could play Yahtzee for a quarter each. You could play any game you wanted at very low stakes and just have fun with that. You could bet. I could say, who's going to talk next? I'll bet you $1. It's Mason Trace.
Yeah, yeah.
But
We get gambling on Twister in the front parking strip outside because that was the only place we could play it.
oh yeah,
We were playing games in the rest of the house.
it was it was pretty bizarre, but it was always a lot of fun. I don't really. It was like a great way to bring like 30, 50 people together and just
Yeah,
be goofballs.
Yeah, bunch of good mix of like game designers and people we liked.
Yeah,
We did like some of
that
the game designers as well, but
that is for sure. Like we're, I think most of us are all still friends. I would guess, if not all. I can't think of anyone that's like who's on the outs. I haven't talked to a couple people in a while, but no,
uh,
it's not a bad thing.
yeah, there's a bunch of people I haven't talked to in ages, but yeah,
I will
but
bring them back on here if you
yeah.
hear them that way. Yeah, it's interesting. I haven't done it yet, but you can have many people at once. I'm gonna go try it at some point. Like, I wonder what happens. I have no idea. I've never tried. Can you can you talk to more than one person at a time at this point?
It's hard for me to talk to more than one person. I'm much more get deep with someone one on one than I am
Yeah,
talk to a
yeah,
bunch
me
of
too.
people.
Yeah, people are draining. So the more of them you have, there's got to be some enemies, enemies, enemies. I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't know. Like I feel like even the people that have been fired by other people still friends for the most part. I don't feel like there were
Yeah.
any. I mean, rivalries for sure. But
Oh, there probably were a couple. There were a couple of people who got like a little salty at each other for a brief windows and then figured it out.
yeah,
But there's no, I mean, I don't know. Life changed a lot for me in the last 20 years. I don't have any reason to begrudge anyone anything. No
yeah,
one did anything that bad
yeah.
that I remember. Yeah.
And for me, certainly, like I, I I don't remember grudges, so I don't hold them. So it's easy.
Yeah. I'm like, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're all trying to be constructive and help each other out. That's what we hire for. So take that, Mason Trace. Everything's not a spike. All right, Paul Barclay. It is wonderful to see you as always. I
It
will
is
hopefully see you in Las Vegas on Saturday, whatever day
decided.
that is. No, not this Saturday. I have to parent alone. They would be disappointed to miss their piano and soccer and other forced activities. I couldn't bear that emotional brunt.
Yeah, that would be a bit rough. Um, but yes, another Vegas trip soon-ish.
All right. Deal. All right. Brain hug. Brain
Brain
hug.
hug.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Sorry for the accidental spam, but I hope you enjoyed it.